Fatherhood isn't easy, but in Autism Land, it's a journey like no other. Join Mark de Grasse as we explore the highs, lows, and everything in between of raising children on the autism spectrum. With real stories, practical advice, and a touch of humor, we're here to navigate this unique journey together. For dads navigating life on the autism spectrum, you're not alone.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark de Grasse. Welcome to Dads in Autismland, where we talk everything autism, fatherhood, and all of the trials and tribulations that come along with it, as well as the good things that come. Me as an autistic father, I have learned more than I ever have in my life, and I think it's been a huge benefit overall. So it's not all trials, which we're going to talk about today with my friend David Lee. Welcome to the show.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
Yeah, it's been great. We were chatting before this. I know you're a podcaster, a professor, and then you also have your autistic son, Eddie, and he's 9 years old. And we were just kind of talking about, hey, we were talking about publicly talking about our kids. Actually, why don't we just start there? Where it's kind of, how is being an autism father kind of influenced your life, and why haven't you talked about a lot of it publicly to date?
Yeah, I've tried to keep it. I mean, to be completely honest, early on, there was a bit of even some involved, right? Just this notion of like, well, how serious is this? Around the time of his diagnosis, we were very hopeful that things would improve dramatically. And there was just this notion that we're not going to put him through a lot of public discussion about this. But yeah, due to developments in his life, maybe we'll get to some of those. It's becoming more clear that I think it's more helpful to talk publicly about it so that people in a similar situation can know that they're not alone and can perhaps benefit from some of the things that my wife and I have learned. And I'm also becoming aware, I don't think he's going to be embarrassed by the things that I say about him, as much as I had maybe thought or hoped that he could be down the road. And so I'm a little bit more open than I used to be about things like that.
I love that. And I think it's really a sign of kind of acceptance of the situation, because I went through the exact same thing where we kind of, as you start to go through the diagnosis process, and you're like, oh, well, maybe he's deaf. Like he's just not responding to things because he's deaf, or, he's just talking late, or, all these different things. And then as you keep on going and the years pass, you start to realize like, no, this is going to be harder than we thought. Even for our housing choices, we're like, okay, well, eventually he'll want to move out to the little apartment. So we want to make sure we have that. And then now we're kind of like, he's never going to live in an apartment. Like this is not going to be there. But that with that kind of acceptance, I think allows you to kind of move forward, where it's like, okay, we're not spending 24/7 trying to solve the problem. And it's more, no, this is our life. This is our son, and that's fine. And let's go ahead and get to it. So was there a specific point that happened where you're like, okay, let's, we're not going to have to worry about him being concerned about, different things?
I mean, a few different points and just kind of a general pattern and progression, because it's funny how you mentioned the deaf aspect, because he, even surrounding his diagnosis, we weren't sure that he was truly autistic, right? I mean, until shortly before we got the diagnosis, we thought for a while that, okay, his speech delay is a result of ear infections he had, the fact that he couldn't hear and process for a long, long time until he got the tubes put in. And then, of course, it doesn't help that everyone you talk to brings up a story of someone that they know who didn't talk until they were such and such age, and they're just fine now. People say a lot of things, and a lot of them aren't super helpful. But in his case, as he got older, it became more a matter of this is going to impact him far more severely than it does with some people, right? Because of course it's a spectrum, and it's not the same for everyone. But it's really when the self-injury started that it became obvious to us that, okay, this is far more serious than we thought. This isn't just a matter of he's going to relate to people differently in a nonverbal way, because he is nonverbal, but this is something that is going to be a safety concern for us that we'll have to address for as long as we have to address it.
No, and that's a pivotal point. For us, I think we had an issue in the school when he was like 6 and we were still trying to go the traditional school route. And then it was
Mm,
like, all right, they obviously can't handle this situation. And so then we had to, find a new one. Luckily, we found Central Texas Autism Center, which is, kind of like saved our lives, I would say,
mm.
because now he's making progress. But, I think the biggest difference is that the progress is measured in years. Like, okay,
Yeah.
he could put on his socks. Yes, that's
Yeah.
incredible. Like you're
Hmm.
just so excited. Or they do something, I remember when my son first drank it, or he did it before, and apparently I just didn't see it, but he drank out of a water bottle, just a regular water bottle. And I was trying to we were at a baseball game. I was trying to put it in his mouth, like, oh, just take a sip. And then he grabs it away from me and takes a chug. Like, where did that come from? This is incredible. You're looking around. Did anybody see that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, those are the victories that like a lot of parents may not recognize, but autism dads are like, yeah, putting his shoes on, or and lately getting Eddie just to get himself fully dressed, and pick out clothes, or eating new foods. He asked for a grilled cheese sandwich. Now he's obsessed with grilled cheese. That's huge protein, right? And so it's little victories. I like to say it's you know 3 steps forward, 1 step back, or maybe 2 steps back. But if you look just at the steps back, which is so easy for me to focus on, then it can be really depressing. But if you look at the long term, the trajectory, overall, the improvement is noticeable. It's just even though the regression occurs, you have to zoom out and look big picture, and ultimately trust that we're a Christian family and we trust that the Lord is working in all of these things, even if in the moment, we're going through trials and going through a dark point in a dark valley. So
Oh no, that's huge, and I love the Christian aspect too, because I think if you do have a bigger view of the situation, because it's you say, hey, God doesn't make mistakes, and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to get out of this? Like,
yeah,
what's he trying to tell us all to do? And then,
that
but then I
that's an
look at
interesting expression in and of itself. I don't know if we want to go down that road, but yeah,
it is, and it's well, you have these discussions with that. Oh, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle, kind of thing, and you're
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, what did I do?
yeah,
That must be
yeah.
so far off. But looking back at my life, because I went through periods of the hustle, where it's like I'm gonna accomplish everything and do all these amazing things,
Hmm.
and you have a definition for that. And then for me, it's really just a different definition where for me, super success would be making the money that I need to make to support the family, but also spending maximum amount of time with the family. And then
Mm.
that's success and not being tired all the time, which I don't know if will ever happen.
No, probably not. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part and parcel, especially with, being an autism dad, is that for many of us at least, it's like having a toddler for a very, very, very long
Forever.
time. Forever,
Mhm.
right, exactly. And so it's hard for people to relate, and it's easy to grieve, and it's important to grieve the loss of things that that's something that we've learned is that, you can be in denial, you can be depressed about it, but proper grief begins and ends, right? And so you can grieve the things that you're not going to have, right? Are we going to be empty nesters? Almost certainly no,
Mhm.
unless he goes to live somewhere else, when that would be wonderful. But we're not mentally preparing for that. There's a sense in which losing some of the unknown that comes with the early stages of the
Mm.
autism diagnosis, losing some of that unknown is actually surprisingly a relief. At least that's
Mhm.
what my wife and I have found is that, okay, as long as, we're not having to guess every single day if this or that thing is going to happen. Some of them just won't, and you can deal with it and you can move on. And hopefully we're wrong and he blows past those expectations. But, if your expectations are far too high, then it's hard to not be disappointed all the time.
Mhm.
But like you said, it's those victories that you have to focus on: drinking out of a water bottle, eating an ice cream cone, um, putting your shoes on, wearing shoes. Eddie went a full
Mhm.
year without wearing shoes at all, including dead of winter, below zero temperatures, heat of summer. Refused everywhere, indoor, outdoor, and we finally got him back in shoes, and that was a huge victory for us. So anyway,
No, and that's the incredible part because sometimes you're looking at other parents. I have another son who's 12, so Damien's 13, and you look at these parents with the neurotypical kids and the things they complain about, and you're like, oh my gosh, if I had that problem, I'd be
yeah.
so happy
Hmm.
to have to deal with that. But on the flip side, there are things that you won't deal with, like again, they're 13 and 12, so they're kind of the same age ish. And my son is now like the girl thing is starting to
Yeah.
happen. He's interested in girls or crushes and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Driving a car, going out with the wrong crowd. There's a lot of stresses that happen with the neurotypical side that I think are a lot harder in some
Hmm.
cases, versus exactly what the situation is with your autistic child and everything about them. That's funny about the shoes. We had the issue with pants, where it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
anytime you walked into somebody's house, it was like, all right, keep an eye on him because he's going to end up in the master bedroom taking all of the covers off their mattress for some reason, and then he's going to lose the pants, and then we'll have to find the pants because he's going to hide them somewhere.
Yeah, crawling in the bed. Eddie did the same exact thing. It sounds like Eddie and Damien are pretty similar. They'd probably be fast friends. Uh,
Or they'd hate
yeah.
each other because
Well,
that
that's yeah.
happens.
You're cutting in on my turf, man. This is my thing.
Wait a second. I was going
this
to chew
thing,
on that.
this king size bed's not big enough for both of us to roll in the blankets or whatever it is.
Oh no, that is it. It's even, when you go on vacation and try to share a bed. Now I have like my protocol of like, okay, I'm going to line up the pillows. I need something heavy enough where you can't
There
get
you
past it, and then you
go.
could sleep for 10 seconds. But no, that is kind of funny how you see some of these trends where it's like, oh yeah, I totally understand that. And like you said, it is kind of like having a toddler long term where when I talk to neurotypical parents, I'm kind of like, okay, just imagine when your kid was like 2 or 3 and you were chasing him all over the place. Like
Yeah.
it's sort of like that, but then
Hmm.
slightly harder because you can't tell them something or expect a result if you yell.
Hey, Dad. Yeah, you. The one who stayed up researching sensory toys at 2 a.m. The one learning about IEPs while watching game highlights. We see you. The Pathfinder Collective is where dads like us connect beyond the podcast. No judgment, just real talk about raising kids on the spectrum. $50 gets you lifetime access to our Facebook group, bi-monthly workshops with experts who actually get it, and yeah, a free shirt to replace that one with all the inexplicable stains. Because sometimes you need more than advice. You need another dad who nods and says, same here, man. Go to dadsinautismland.com/pathfinder.
Now my son's actually at the point where he laughs at me sometimes when he's in trouble, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, that really bothers me. But it kind of, it's a progress of a sense where it's
Hmm.
like, I'm upset about something and it's humorous to you, which makes me angry, but at the same time, kind of proud.
Yeah, exactly. When they do something that is okay, this is maybe it's bratty, but it's neurotypical
Hmm.
bratty, right? Like, okay,
Yeah, teenager
you're
bratty.
yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, you're being a pain, but you're being a pain in a way that's encouraging. So I'm going to let it slide, uh, to a sense, or I'm going to accept it differently. But yeah, I love how you pointed out the kind of silver linings, if you will, because yeah, there are quite a few of those. I have, we just have the one, Eddie, and I have friends with multiple kids, 3, 5, 7 kids, those who foster and adopt. And man, so much of their life sounds so much harder than mine. And they're always saying things to me like, I don't know how you do it. And, you know, I don't know if you experience this, but when you have a severely autistic kid, people assume you're a saint. Um,
Mm.
and it's like, that's been my experience. People just, being overly positive. And it's like, you don't know how bad I am at this. Like, you really give me far too much credit. But in this case, I'm always amazed by those parents because it's like, man, we just got the one to juggle, right? Two on
Mhm.
one. Like it's a little bit easier in that sense. And like you said, he's not getting in a car driving anywhere. He's not, going off to school in an unknown scenario where he could sneak off. There's a lot of things that are. Or for that matter, he's not communicating with anyone,
Mm.
texting or, online or on social media. Some of the real dangerous stuff happens there. There's a lot that we're sort of spared in terms of the difficulties of parenthood. But that being said, the challenges are very real.
Oh yeah. Well, and you are, kind of a saint.
Yeah,
Because
wow.
well, there are options, and I think guys like us like don't. It's not even a consideration. It's like I would never do that. But if you're a crappy person, then oh yeah, put them in a home, like
Hmm.
or and that's basically where it goes. Put them at home, get divorced. You only have to worry about it half time. There's options. It's
Yeah.
just not for us, and that's why we're here, and can actually find the benefit in it, because
Hmm.
it is hard. It's extremely hard. But I will say that I think the most difficult situation is when somebody had, say, three or two or even one neurotypical child, raise the child, and then they have an autistic child, so they can actually see the difference the whole time.
Yeah.
My kids are 10 months apart, so it's kind of like that's actually it probably increased our awareness of the autism, was because we saw the neurotypical at the same time, and we're like, oh yeah, he's missing a lot
Mm.
of a lot of steps that he should have taken, and so it got a little bit easier. But
Yeah.
yeah, we haven't known anything else, and for you, it's the only thing you've known. So it's
Yeah. It is. It's the only thing I've known, and I'm the youngest child, and so it's not like I watched younger siblings growing
oh,
up and
mm.
saw that. I walked in pretty blind to this whole parenthood thing. Aside from seeing nieces and nephews and stuff, didn't really know what to expect. And so, yeah, in some ways, the disappointments are more limited, and the comparisons are. It can still be tough for family who have seen like grandkids or
Mhm.
nieces and nephews develop differently. They're going to process stuff differently, but yeah, like you said, the disappointments are not going to be the same necessarily as they would be with someone that had those expectations. There are benefits and silver linings to it, but again, major challenges such as, in our case, Eddie is self-injurious.
Mm.
And I know that's not something all autistic parents deal with, but that's been a big and major challenge in our lives. And we ended up having to move across the country in order to get him better care. And so that was quite a challenge. But fortunately, the Lord's brought us to a good place and a good, uh, school, neighborhood, church, uh, workplace for me.
Mhm.
And all of that, despite going through those challenges, really has been for the best. And I think that that's hopefully an encouragement as well to those that are listening. Hey, maybe you have to consider a big change in your life in order to better care for your family. Perhaps even a change that you're worried is going to make your child like freak out or make things worse because adjustments and change are really hard. But this move that we made from West Virginia to Missouri was absolutely essential.
Mm.
Just changed everything for us. There was almost no special needs services. We were waitlisted for 3 years for ABA therapy. We would have had to pay out of pocket up to 1,500 a week for it, and just brutal stuff. And we eventually just realized we cannot stay here. We got to go. And in that process, we ended up here, and the Lord's just worked out so much stuff that yeah, there's still challenges, but we're in a place where he has really excellent medical care, uh, excellent school teachers, the whole special needs setup, not just an autism classroom where he's the most severe situation. He's not the most severe kid at his school,
Mhm.
which is pretty encouraging for us. So in any case, yeah, I hope that that is an encouragement. If there's anyone that is listening that is thinking, I wonder if I should make any big changes. Obviously, it may not be for everyone, but in our case, it was hugely necessary, and we wish we had done it sooner. As hard as it was to leave
Mhm.
West Virginia and all our friends and being close to family and everything like that.
No, and I love that you said that, because that's I have seen a trend with a lot of the dads on here where it's like we made a major change. I stopped working and my wife works full time because this is what made sense for us. We moved back and forth to California several times
Mhm.
from Texas, or we're from California, moved to Texas, ended up back in California to get the diagnosis, and then moved back to Texas because the situation was better, and it was hugely expensive and tiring,
Mm.
and it's just horrible. But
Mm.
in the end, it was the best situation, and just like you said, we found a church we like, we have a school we like for both kids, and it wasn't easy, But, I think that's the part of, autism fatherhood that a lot of people don't realize, is just how kind of it's lonely until you
Yeah.
find a community you have, because it's not because people don't want to help or that your family doesn't understand or any of these things. It's because you literally can't understand unless you are doing it every day for
Yeah.
years and decades. So no,
And
that's fantastic for you.
and we're even limited in our ability to understand what each other are going through, right?
Mhm.
Because I know what my situation's like, but I can't compare it to other people. We have friends and neighbors. Our neighborhood is excellent, and a lot of the kids in our neighborhood are, well, several of them are somewhere on the spectrum, and it's super encouraging to be in that situation. But obviously, we're all in really different specific instances, and so, but yeah, it's not that people don't want to help; it's that they don't know how to help. And I can
Mhm.
relate to that because if I see other kids having a meltdown, I wouldn't know what to do either. Even
Mhm.
though I know how to handle it with my own kid, I wouldn't know how to help with theirs. So you hold the door open, you offer, but they're not going to say, they're not going to accept. Um, yeah, it's really, like you said, lonely is a good word for it. Um, it's a very lonely situation. So,
Yeah, but it is very teaching. I think
uh-huh.
that's if you look at all the movies, like you guys review a lot of movies, the hero's journey is always some kind of solitude to find the thing and then come back stronger, better, and win in the end, which is
Yeah,
what I think we're doing. I will say your Saint points probably have gone up quite a few points just because you're literally helping another person every single day, and
yeah.
it's and there's and you're glad to do it. It's on and off, you
Well,
know.
yeah, it's not always glad, but yeah, it is. It is hugely illustrating of your own weaknesses and
Mhm.
impatience, you know, anger, defensiveness. Right? When you have a kid who's coming after you, it can really reveal things about yourself, and perhaps make you have to deal with things. I've had to seek counseling and even um, you know, going further, speaking with psychiatrists, and it was important for me to do that for the sake of my family, for the sake of my son,
Mm.
to just try and get things ironed out and figured out with myself, because I said this isn't sustainable. And so, yeah, it's been a long journey, a lot we could talk about, but I know that we're time's starting to run short on us here a little bit.
Well, I think this is a great introduction to you. We'll definitely have you back on the show, and I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah. Well,
is
thanks so much, Mark.
is what I like to see, and I'm glad you can share here because it's like it's a small group of
Hmm.
autism dads. I'm very happy your family's moving forward though, because I think that's the most important part that I've realized. Where I'm kind of like, no, this family structure is 100% necessary, requires epic amounts of selfless decision making, and even so selfless that you actually have to focus on yourself sometimes to
Hmm.
improve what you need to continue to help. And I can do a whole episode on that where it's like, let me tell
Yeah.
you the things I did to figure it out. And it's ongoing, it never ends. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really have enjoyed the podcast. Really appreciated the community, learning so much from your guests, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Well, we'll keep on making these shows. I think that one thing I've learned is that, well, I teach marketing and I'm always like, you know what? There's a group out there just for you. And if you could find them, everybody's going to be happy. So I'm glad we found you.
All right. Yeah, same here.
All right. Thank you so much, David. I will be talking to you soon. We'll get you back on and we'll talk more specifically on some of these different topics because, like we mentioned, they could just go deep and we could be talking for hours, but we don't have that kind of time.
Exactly. All right. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Dads in Autismland podcast, where we talk everything autism fatherhood, the good, the bad, and the glad is probably the best way to say it. So tune back in and please subscribe.